Mysterious prophet Amos predicted Israel's fall, but they refused to believe. Few knew what truly happened that night in the town of Bethel. Darkness cloaked the land, wrapping it in an ominous veil. The air buzzed with whispers, rumors swirling like autumn leaves caught in a furious wind. Amos, that strange prophet who roamed the hills and valleys with dusty sandals and a heart full of warnings, stood tall before the crowd. His eyes glimmered, reflecting flickering torchlight as he proclaimed doom. "Israel, your days are numbered," he shouted, voice thick with urgency. Gasps echoed through the throng. Faces turned pale, lips quivering at the gravity of his words. A silence fell, palpable, heavy. People looked around, uncertain. Was it fear? Paranoia? Amos was an outsider, a shepherd. What did he know of kings or warriors? Yet the air thrummed with an unexplainable energy, vibrating against their skin. The backdrop was a world of idolatry and corruption. High places draped in golden statues of false gods loomed like sentinels over the city. The smoke of sacrifices smothered the cries of the oppressed. Just beyond the temple-less walls, the rich feasted while the poor withered, hunger gnawing at their bellies. Amos saw them all the injustice, the impending wrath that hung over Israel like a storm cloud. Prepare for the day of Yahweh, he warned. He could feel the tightening in his chest, a rising tension that made it hard to breathe. The crowd stirred. Some shook their heads in disbelief, sharing uneasy glances amongst themselves. "This man has gone mad," some muttered, dismissing him with laughter that felt like daggers. Others, though, felt a tremor of unease. What if he was right? The uncertainty painted their hearts in shades of dread. His words struck chords of doubt. Amos spoke of visions of plumb lines and locusts, of darkness swallowing light. Could it be? A wave of chaos breathing down their necks, just waiting to engulf them? The weight of unvoiced concerns pressed upon the people. They shuffled, anxiety gnawing at them like a hidden serpent, lurking just out of sight. Could he really predict their fall? Or was it all a cruel trick of fate? Tension hung thick, a taut thread ready to snap. As Amos finished his fervent plea, the crowd erupted. Some bolted away, urgency marked by wild eyes. Others remained, compelled by a force they couldn't name. The prophet's words ignited a fire in them, a flame of conviction burning against the chill of ignorance. Would they heed his warnings before it was too late? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun dipped below the distant hills, casting long shadows that crept through the town, suggesting that not all was well beneath the fading light. People scattered from a square, like feathers torn from a bird in flight, uncertain where to land. Voices mingled in the air, their murmurs becoming a chaotic chorus that drowned out reason. In the midst of this turmoil stood Amos, his heart heavy, not merely from the weight of disbelief, but from the burden of knowing. He felt the pull of despair that clung to the very soil beneath his feet, a soil nourished by injustice and watered by the tears of the oppressed. The prophet had seen visions, vivid and raw, of a people divided, their hearts hardened as stone against the gentle nudges of truth. Among the crowd, two souls lingered, caught between heedlessness and awareness. A woman named Miri, her skin weathered by countless seasons, held on her child, her eyes scanning the faces around her. "Can it be true?" she whispered, her voice quivering. Beside her stood Eli, a tradesman whose once radiant spirit now flickered like a candle in the breeze. He met Miri's gaze, a question forming unbidden on his lips. What if we are as Amos says? What if ruin is indeed upon us? Their conversation was hushed, drowned by the distant, echoing laughter of those still consumed by revelry, blind to the impending darkness. Miri's heart quickened with each passing moment, torn between her instincts to flee with her child or stay rooted in this burgeoning doubt that began to take shape within her. "Fear is a sickness," she whispered, "but ignorance may be its deadliest form." If his words hold even a thread of truth, the revelation wove through her mind like shadowy tendrils. Were they willing to risk to find out? As night descended fully, an eerie stillness fell over Bethel. The candle flames wavered with the chilling breeze of foreboding. Amos, sensing the wavering faith around him, lifted his gaze toward the heavens, filled with an urgency he could scarcely contain. "People of Israel," he called out, his voice rising, echoing against the walls of the temple, "do not seal your ears to the cries of the Lord. He desires your hearts, not your empty rituals. Return to him, and he will spare you." Yet, even as his words flowed, many in the crowd found solace in disbelief. They fortified their hearts against the mighty winds of prophecy. The high places loomed ever closer, their golden facades twinkling under the moonlight, tempting, numbing reality for those who gazed in wonder. Among the gathered, a faint rustling caught Amos's attention, a figure concealed in the shadows of the temple entrance. The air felt thick, a palpable tension wrapping around the moment. Who might this be? Was it a seeker, yearning for truth, or a spy sent to lead him astray? The figure remained still, arms crossed, cloaked in the darkness of unknowing. A quiet hush enveloped the crowd once more. Amos turned, meeting the gaze of the figure. Could this be a sign, a call for help, or a further deepening of their collective blindness? He could not tell, only that the mystery hung heavy in the air, thick as fog, enveloping all around. Who would emerge from the shadows to listen, and what truths might they unearth together in the face of their looming fate? As the stillness deepened, the figure stepped forward, crossing into the dim light cast by the flickering oil lamps. Amos squinted, striving to discern the features veiled by the cloak. At last, the shape materialized, a young man, whose countenance held a mixture of defiance and uncertainty. His eyes flickered like embers caught in a windstorm, revealing a spirit seeking to both understand and rebel against the fear that suffocated the air. "I am Nathan," the young man declared, his voice rising above the murmurs of the crowd. "You speak of ruin, profit, and of turning back to the Lord. But tell me, if he is truly among us, why does he remain silent while injustice creeps upon the land? Where is this promised mercy you proclaim?" Amos lowered his gaze, pondering the depth of the young man's question. Surely, Nathan's struggle echoed through the hearts of many present. The prophet could feel their unspoken doubts, a chasm widening between their yearning for connection with the divine and the bitter truths layered upon their reality. "God speaks," Amos replied, each word carefully chosen, not merely in grand displays, but through the whispers of our own hearts. It is not silence from above, but the clamor of our own transgressions that dulls our ears. Do you not hear the cries of the widow, the shouts of the oppressed? His words await in the spaces where we dare not tread. Nathan frowned, frustration flaring in his eyes. What if they are shadows of our making? By clinging to a God who requires our sacrifice, are we no less willing to sacrifice our humanity in the pursuit of belief? Is that what salvation entails? The crowd began to swell with murmurs again, their eager minds grappling with the weight of Nathan's challenge. Here was a soul unafraid to voice doubts that lay buried in the hearts of many. Amos recognized the shifting atmosphere, the electric tension buzzing like a taut string ready to snap. "Miriam, Eli," Amos called, beckoning the wary couple he had observed earlier. "Come forth and share your thoughts. Have you not felt the tremors of truth clash against the walls of your fears?" The couple moved hesitantly, their resolve crumbling before the scrutinizing gaze of the crowd. Miri spoke up, her voice shaky yet resolute. "What if we are trapped, caught in a web of our own making? I am afraid to believe, but I am even more afraid to face a life devoid of faith." Eli, overshadowed by the weight of expectation, added, "How can we trust when the world offers so many distractions? The high places bring a comfort that faith alone does not. It gives us a moment's reprieve from the chaos." Amos looked at them, recognizing their struggle as one mirrored by all. Faith is not the absence of fear, but the reasoning we allow ourselves to seek truth despite it. What is comfort but a fleeting moment? Are you willing to plunge into the depths of spiritual uncertainty to find the true foundation of solace? Are we thus to stand in the fold of shadows or step boldly into the light? Murmurs rippled through the gathering as people weighed his words in their hearts. The flickering flames seemed to dance higher, almost as if responding to the urgency in the air. The temple's shadows seemed to reach further, drawing both the faithful and the unsure into the profound embrace of the undefined. But what if the light blinds us more than the darkness holds our truth? Nathan pressed, still wrestling with the daunting implications of Amos's message. Amos let out a breath, feeling the weight of prophecy rest heavier upon his shoulders. What is the price we pay for truth? And in that price, does liberation wait? With night fully descended, a heavy silence settled upon the crowd, each person reflecting on the choices before them. As stars began to pierce the veil of darkness, a question lingered like a distant star. Would they search for the truth hidden beneath their fears, or would they remain bound to the shadows, content with their illusions? As the crowd absorbed the weight of Amos's words, night deepened, and the air thickened with expectancy. Each listener wrestled internally with their doubts and fears. Yet within that fragile silence, a shift occurred. A stray gust of wind rattled the oil lamps, casting elongated shadows that danced along the walls of the temple. Suddenly, an elder named Barak, who had been a silent observer, stepped forth. His hair, white as the clouds, and his gait slow yet deliberate, commanded attention. "Prophet Amos," he began, voice edged with disbelief, "you speak of light and shadows, of faith through chaos, but what of the weight of our actions? How can we be entrusted with such knowledge of divine expectation when our hearts often lead us astray? Is not our very history a testament to our failures?" Amos regarded Barak, aware of the burden carried by the elder, a lineage marked by both pride and folly. "Indeed, Barak, our history is strewn with the remnants of our forgetfulness. Like driftwood on the sea, we have floated from promise to disillusionment. Yet, is this not the blueprint of human existence? The yearning for redemption is laced within our faltering steps. The question lies not just in our past, but in our response moving forward." Nathan leaned closer, intrigued. "Aren't we but marionettes then? Strings pulled by the specters of our ancestors' choices? What agency does one have when surrounded by the specter of fate?" "Ah, but there is a divine mystery in choice," Amos replied, a twinkle igniting in his eyes. "Though the weight of ancestry is heavy, you are not shackled by their misdeeds. Your pursuit of understanding itself is an act of liberation. Grasping a truth among shadows reveals that each soul bears light dormant within. The journey to awaken, it begins with a decision, a leap of faith into the unknown." The dim light of the lamps flickered as if responding, embodying the tension in their gathering. Yet Nathan remained skeptical. But what if the light blinds us more than the darkness holds our truth? What if our quest for purity is itself a curse? Eli, emboldened by the exchange, spoke with urgency. "Then how do we discern the voice of the divine from the clamor of our doubts? Can prophecy be understood among the myths we cling to?" Amos placed a steady hand upon Eli's shoulder. "Discernment is a process woven through silence and doubt, through prayer and introspection. The words of the prophets guide, but do not dictate. They illuminate pathways veiled in uncertainty. The heart's sincerity becomes the compass amidst the storm." Miriam's voice broke through the haze, softer yet stronger than before. "But what if we are too fragile, too lost? Can we really believe that a merciful God lingers here with us amidst our brokenness? The prophet's gaze swept over the faces before him, feeling their collective ache mingle with the flickering flames. None are too far from grace to seek it. It is within the very fracture of our lives that His love dwells. We are called not to understand fully, but to trust the unfolding. The seeking is the finding, the questions the answers premised upon courage. As darkness deepened around them, the weight of unasked questions loomed. The crowd, once hesitant, now buzzed with contemplation, a moment suspended between despair and hope. Amos could sense that a decision lay before them, a path winding into the unknown. The air thick with potential, he leaned closer to the gathered souls. Will you stand in your fears, or will you rise with faith, embracing the mystery of the journey ahead? And in that pivotal moment, the heart of the matter crystallized within the gathering, pregnant with the unspoken truth that echoed through the ages. Were they prepared to confront their shadows, or would they choose comfort over the tumultuous pursuit of divine understanding? As the night deepened further, the murmurs of the crowd became a tapestry of voices, interwoven with uncertainty and longing. The flickering lamps seemed to relinquish their glow, casting darkness in every corner. The shadows reached farther, coiling around the hearts that had once brimmed with the warmth of trust. Amos stood resolute, his presence a silent beacon lingering in the converted sanctuary. Prophet Amos, a voice called out from the fringes, a young woman named Leora with the spirit of fierce hope gleaming in her eyes. Could you not speak clearer? What lies beyond this veil of darkness you constantly suggest? Are we to simply stumble through this haze, waiting for a flicker of light? Her plea hung in the air, stark against the prevailing uncertainty. Amos considered her words carefully. Leora, he said softly, the essence of prophecy is layered like the fabric of our lives. Sometimes, to unveil truth, one must observe the obscured. There is clarity, yet often it resides in the depths of the unknown. He sensed the discontent rippling through the crowd. Your fear of stumbling is not unfamiliar, it is a shared wound. Yet, amidst these shadows, I assure you the seeds of wisdom sprout in unexpected places. Language, when painted with intention, is riddled with mystery. In our search for answers, we may find more in our questions than the certainty we think we desire. From the back, an elder named Jotham interjected, "And what of our future, Amos? If we are to embrace the unknown, how do we not become victims of our fate? Must we always stand aloof, gazing at the horizon while the tempest rages around us?" At Jotham's words, a heavy silence blanketed the assembly, as heads turned from Amos to the horizon visible through the open doorway, the far-reaching darkness beyond encapsulating their fears. The prophet answered, "To confront the tempest is not to wear blinders. Courage is not knowing all, but moving forward despite the obscurity. There lies strength in vulnerability, for in our weaknesses His strength is made perfect." Emboldened, Miriam spoke again, her voice now a steady hymn. But how do we find comfort in divine silence? How do we reconcile our yearning for answers with the silence that so often echoes back? The divine speaks, even in silence, Amos replied, his tone reverent. The stillness is a canvas upon which faith can paint its most vibrant colors. Listen deeply not for the thunderous proclamations, but for the gentle brushstrokes of a guiding whisper. Perhaps it is the doubt that allows the soul to wander closer to truth. Barak stepped forward again, his brow furrowed in thought. Then we're left with a choice, a daunting one at that, to stand and face the waves, or to retreat to the comfort of certainty, knowing the depths may hold our eternal downfall. Precisely, Amos affirmed, the winds howling outside as if echoing the elder's lament. Your history has taught you many things, but each moment bears the potential for rebirth. Embrace the uncertainty, for therein lies the essence of faith, a relentless quest to pierce through darkness with the light you carry. Leora, still distressed yet inspired, whispered, "But what if we are too late? If the die is cast and the fall of Israel inevitable?" Here, Amos paused, his gaze wide and embracing, as he stepped closer to the gathered. What if the fall is not an end, but a prelude, an invitation for renewal? Every soul called to rise again after the autumn dissipates. When the shadows seem endless, it is within those depths that the most luminous changes emerge. History may unfold as it will, but it is your responses, a hearting of choices, that can redirect its course. The assembly was filled with an electric anticipation, yet the horizon still loomed undetermined outside the sheltering walls. Questions danced, unanchored, like leaves caught in a breeze. Amos felt the heaviness in the air and asked, "Can you lay down your expectations of control and embrace the profound unknown? Will you see the fall not as a demise, but as an opportunity for rebirth? In the midst of uncertainty, are you willing to carry the light within, regardless of how dimly it may flicker in the forthcoming chaos?" The murmurs of contemplation swept once more through the crowd. A promise of introspection lingering there in the shadows lay the indescribable pull of an unfolding mystery yet to be embraced. As dawn broke gently over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the veil of darkness that had enveloped the night. The assembly remained gathered, their faces marked by a mixture of hope and trepidation. Amos stood before them, a guardian of truths yet unspoken, as the day whispered promises yet to unfold. With a soft yet commanding voice, Amos began to share visions he had seen in the quiet of the night, a vast river rising, its waters angry and turbulent, threatening to sweep away all that rested on its banks. "I dreamt of a great flood," he said, his eyes glimmering with a fire that seemed to ignite within him. "It was not merely water, but a tide of consequence, emotions, actions, forged in the fires of indifference. The river comes to cleanse the earth of complacency." Leora, inspired yet unsettled, raised her hand. "Prophet Amos, what can we do to prepare? How do we stand against the flood you speak of? Is there a way to divert its course?" "The current cannot be stopped," Amos responded, sincerity pouring from his words. "But you may fortify your spirits. Build your own ark, not of wood and nails, but of unity and compassion. In times of upheaval, it is the bonds you share with one another that will buoy you. Seek the wisdom of your ancestors, gather in prayer, and nourish the land that cradles your forefathers' promises." Miriam, nourished by the passion enveloping the assembly, added, "But what if we are called to sacrifice? What if this flood is to cleanse us of those we love, those who have strayed from your teachings?" Amos paused, considering the depth of her inquiry. Every call to sacrifice bears its own weight. Those bound to your heart are not forsaken, but called forth to awaken. Be prepared, for the act of love is often fraught with pain. Yet through that pain, understanding can blossom. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the faces of the crowd with grace. Barak stood again, his voice uncertain but steady. "Could it be that we should seek a sacrifice, not for our own comfort, but for our brothers and sisters lost along the path? Do we relinquish our right to judge their journeys and instead offer hope?" "Indeed, Barak," Amos affirmed, "let your hands be outstretched, not as judges, but as gardeners of grace. In the wake of the storm, the seeds of kindness you sow may anchor their wandering souls. Remember, faith is not a monument, but a garden, a living space full of possibilities." As he spoke, the crowd seemed to breathe collectively, their breaths mingling like the winds that rustled the leaves outside. Jotham's brow furrowed with contemplation. "But, Amos, what if drowning is not a choice? What if one is swept away despite their efforts to stand firm?" "The truth is that life is often beyond your grasp," Amos replied gently. "Yet, do not mistake susceptible flow for surrender. Each choice we make ripples through time, and the mere act of holding hope can alter the course of swells. Even amidst destruction, creation begins anew." Leora felt a stirring within. The the promise of a potential shift unveiling itself before her eyes. What if we are called to embrace humility, to let go of the need for control, and instead trust in the guidance of the unseen? The prophet nodded, his countenance serene amidst the tempest of concerns that swirled in that sacred space. Exactly, Leora. The unseen often guides us into depths where we can find what's long been hidden. Embrace the humility, and you may find that which has been lost resides not in the surface of the storm, but in the still waters beneath. Amid the rising light and soft shadows, anticipation clung heavily in the air. The questions continued to ebb and flow, each one wrapped in layers of mystery and yearning. Would their hearts remain open to the dawning revelation, or would they shy away from confronting the depths of the storm? As the gathering began to murmur again, Amos could sense thoughts stirring within each individual. "Will you join me, then?" he asked, his voice resonating with a quiet conviction. "Will you stand firm in your compassion, even amidst the flood? Will you cultivate the light within you, nurturing seeds of hope, even when the horizon seems bleak?" The crowd paused, each heart weighted with possibility, yet yearning for answers that tantalizingly remained just out of reach. In these moments of reflection, an unspoken question lingered in the air. What transformative awakening might lie in surrendering to the mystery rather than clinging to certainty? As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the assembly, the palpable tension in the air transformed into a soft, tentative hope. Each person stood enveloped in their thoughts, caught in the delicate web of their fears and aspirations. The gentle flicker of the flames from the gathered torches cast dancing patterns that mirrored the uncertainty within their hearts. Amos surveyed the crowd, his gaze penetrating yet warm. He sensed their collective longing for clarity amid the murmurings of doubt. "Let us not rush to conclusions that lay heavy on our souls," he urged, "but rather allow contemplation to weave its tapestry of understanding in our hearts. Each moment spent in reflection is a vessel that carries us closer to the truth." A hush fell over the crowd, thick with anticipation. As the flames crackled softly, Jotham stepped forward, an earnest expression illuminating his face. "Prophet, what are the leaders of our people? What are their roles as shepherds? How can we expect to navigate these turbulent waters if those who guide us deny the storm's presence?" "Ah, Jotham," Amos replied, a glimmer of sadness shadowing his features. "A leader who turns away from the truth becomes a lighthouse without light, lost to the winds of pride. They may proclaim guidance, yet if their hearts are shrouded in darkness, the shores of their people will remain perilously unguarded. It is up to you, the faithful, to kindle that light of understanding and compassion, sparking a flame that cannot be extinguished." Leora, keeping her gaze fixed on the horizon, raised a new concern. What if we unite in our shared vision, and yet find ourselves abandoned in our efforts? How do we balance our courage against the biting chill of potential despair? Amos stepped forward, moving closer to her. In the face of despair, it is vital to remember that faith is often nurtured in the unseen struggles. Like a seed buried in darkness, it reaches for the light despite the uncertainty of its emergence. Fear binds, but hope expands the horizons of possibility. Hold close to your beliefs like a mother cradles her newborn, allowing them to flourish in their own time. In the fading daylight, the air vibrated with a newfound energy as the assembly clung to Amos's words. Miriam spoke again, her voice now more resolute. "Then let us foster trust in each other and in the visions you've shared. If the flood comes, we shall not be swept away. I will stand with my brothers and sisters, anchored in love." "Indeed, you will," Amos affirmed, a proud smile illuminating his face. "It is this very unity that can carry you through the storm, forging unbreakable bonds of resilience. Remember, the flood is both a challenge and an opportunity for renewal." Barak, emboldened by the collective resolve, posed another question steeped in urgency. And if the flood arrives more swiftly than we anticipate, how do we prepare our spirits for the upheaval? How do we ensure that our kindness does not falter? The journey of a compassionate heart is not linear, Amos replied, his tone somber yet encouraging. You must remain vigilant and aware, for the waters may rise around you even as you prepare. Share your fears, weave them into conversations, and do not shy away from vulnerability. The act of being present in one another's struggles creates a sanctuary that can withstand even the fiercest torrents. As the twilight deepened, enveloping them in a rich indigo blanket, the assembly collectively inhaled a breath laden with the weight of their choices. Each person felt the heartbeat of the community rising and falling like the waves of the oceans that surrounded their nation. An overwhelming realization dawned. Their path lay not in the predicted storms, but in their willingness to foster light and love through adversity. But a lingering question hung heavily on their hearts, an unanswered echo of the prophet's insights. What price would they collectively pay in their unwavering stance for compassion when the flood inevitably sought to break them apart? Would they remember the light amid the impending darkness? As the chill of the night settled upon the land, silence enveloped the assembly like a heavy fog. Under the starlit sky, the flickering flames of the torches reflected the uncertainty mirrored in their hearts. Each individual felt the weight of history pressing down upon them, the echoes of past mistakes intertwining with their present hopes. Amos, standing at the center, could sense the struggle between despair and hope threading through the crowd. Each of you carries a spark, he said softly. But remember, sparks must be tended to, lest they falter in the face of the encroaching winds. Leora, still marshaling her courage, stepped forward again. You speak of sparks and fires, Amos, yet how do we shield them from the inevitable storms that loom like shadowy giants? A moment of stillness passed before Amos replied. You must grasp the essence of each storm. It is not merely an adversary, but also a teacher, revealing truths often obscured by calm waters. Allow yourselves to reflect upon your trials, for in the depths of your struggle lies the promise of growth. Ask not only what is taken from you, but what is revealed. Barak, emboldened by Leora's questions, took a step closer, embers from the fire illuminating his face. But how do we cultivate that understanding when we are overwhelmed? When the darkness threatens to consume our every thought, how do we hold onto our faith? It is in the moments of darkness, Amos spoke, his voice a soothing balm to their fears, that you must seek each other's company. Draw near to one another. Share your doubts as you would your joys. The bonds woven in sorrow can bear fruits of understanding even in the harshest soil. Nurture them, for they shall be your lifeline. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd as Miriam raised a finger, her enthusiasm rising. Shall we then be vessels for each other as burdens? Shall we carry the weight of our community upon our shoulders to lighten the load of our neighbors? Yes, Amos encouraged, his voice warm with affirmation. A community stands strong when the weight is shared, a collective tapestry woven from the threads of every individual story. Together, you will emerge from the deluge transformed. Yet even as the prophet spoke, a troubling thought lingered like a distant thunderclap, casting shadows over their hopeful intentions. What if their hearts, though united, were not truly ready for the rigors of the trials ahead? Jotham, ever the skeptic, raised his hand. But Amos, what if in our unity we lose sight of our individual truths? What if kindness becomes a mere banner under which we hide when the waters rise? Amos regarded him thoughtfully, and the silence hung heavy in the air. Self-awareness is the cornerstone of true unity. Stand firm in your individual voices, for they are as vital as the collective. Do not silence your own truth, for in its expression lies the harmony of your community. Be as distinct notes in a melody. Together, you can create a symphony that resonates beyond mere survival. In that profound moment, an awareness washed over them. They knew their journey held layers of complexity, a rich tapestry fraught with potential and peril. The realization struck deep within their hearts as they gathered closer, igniting the flickers of hope into a vibrant flame. But still, one question remained, hovering in the air like the stars above. Would they find the strength to sing their own unique notes, even as the storm filled their hearts with fear? And how would their symphony sound in the face of a darkness they could not escape? As dawn stretched its fingers across the horizon, casting a soft glow upon the assembly, the urgency of the previous night remained woven in the air like the lingering scent of wood smoke. The flickering flames had cooled, yet the embers still held a quiet potency, much like the hearts of the people who had convened. They found themselves enveloped by a new day, yet the weight of unanswered questions loomed heavily over their minds and spirits. Amos, standing now with the first rays illuminating his face, sensed the anticipation that pulsed through the assembly. Today, he began, his gaze sweeping over those gathered. We venture beyond the ashes of our past and step into the uncertainty of our future. Let us contemplate not only our burdens, but the gifts implicit in our struggles. Leora, emboldened by her growing understanding, ventured to speak. But how do we begin this journey? When our hearts are heavy and our minds clouded by doubt, where do we find the courage to move forward? Amos held his hands out, inviting them to envision their collective path. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to trust in the light that flickers within. It is understanding that each step forward is a testament not just to your strength, but to the resilience of those who came before you. As if echoing his sentiment, Yair, an elder among them, stepped into the circle of light, his face lined with the wisdom of years. Yet, Amos, you speak of light and courage, yet there exists a shadow we cannot ignore. There are whispers among us of rebellion and division. The land thirsts for justice, and not all hearts seek the same truth. How do we unite under one banner when factions rise dangerously at our doorsteps? Amos turned to Yair, absorbing the words that fell like heavy stones into the well of their collective consciousness. Indeed, shadows linger in corners unseen. Yet remember, my friends, it is in confronting the shadows that we uncover the power of our light. Embrace the diversity of your thoughts and let discourse guide you. Do not shy away from the discord, but face it with grace. For in the blending of ideas, you may yet find a reflection of the divine, a truth that can only be birthed from the crucible of differences. Barak leaned forward, interest brightening his eyes. What if our light dims under the weight of too many voices? What if, in our quest for understanding, we lose the essence of our purpose? Can a multitude of opinions truly lead to one truth? The divine truth, Amos replied, his voice steady, is like a mosaic crafted with broken pieces. Each shard embodies its own story, yet together they create a harmonious image richer than any individual piece could reveal. Cherish those fragments and cultivate patience in your discussions. Only then can you truly honor the full spectrum of your existence. Unity emerges not in uniformity, but in the celebration of diversity. Still wrestling with doubt, Jotham crossed his arms, narrowing his eyes. But what if our configurations only lead us round and round, forever caught in a cycle? We've seen what happens when communities falter, when too many opinions paralyze action. How do we ensure the light is not swallowed by confusion? A hush fell over the crowd, each listener suspended between hope and trepidation. Amos, sensing their restlessness, took a slow breath. In your search for clarity, turn inward. Reflect upon your values, for they are the compass that guides your decisions. Seek divine guidance in prayer, and allow stillness to whisper the answers to your hearts. It is the alignment of inner truths with collective intent that will fortify your stand against the darkness. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating their faces, a tapestry of thoughts began to intertwine. Each person stood at the brink, balancing on the precipice of uncertainty. The fires of doubt still flickered, yet alongside them, a burgeoning resolve glimmered in their hearts. Yet, even as they considered the power of unity and the strength of individuality. A question echoed unanswered through the gathered minds. Could they genuinely embrace the mingling of their souls without losing themselves in the process? Would they find the clarity to coalesce into a powerful force? Or would the shadows ultimately dim their collective light? As the sun broke free from the horizon, casting a golden hue over the assembly, the air crackled with anticipation and anxiety. People shifted, gazing earnestly at Amos, who stood resolute, the embodiment of the tumultuous journey before them. His heart beat in rhythm with their uncertainty, yet within him simmered a poignant hope, a conviction that within their struggles lay the potential for transformation. People of Israel, he began, his voice carrying a weight that resonated deep within their cores. You stand at crossroads where hearts waver and minds collide. The flood is not merely a force to endure. It is a call to awaken and embody the courage you have within. The trials of the past serve as fertile ground to replant the seeds of your future. Leora, emboldened, spoke up. But Amos, how can we trust that we are on the right path when chaos rages around us? How do we ensure our unity does not lead to more despair? Unity is not a destination, but a journey, Amos replied, his eyes twinkling with understanding. It requires authenticity, the willingness to face each other as truths, to embrace the messiness of your existence. In vulnerability, connections deepen and strength flourishes. The light you cultivate amid adversity defines your fortitude. Dispel the shadows with your shared radiance. A profound silence swept across the assembly as they absorbed the gravity of his words. Each spirit felt an awakening, a stirring deep within their beings, a realization that their fragmented stories could forge a formidable collective. Then what of action? Nathan pressed, his brow furrowed with concern. How do we move from words to deeds? How do we ensure that our resolve doesn't fade like the whispers of the night? Amos placed a gentle hand on Nathan's shoulder, sensing the sincerity behind his words. Your first step is the very act of deciding to care, to love without restraint. When the waters rise, let compassion and justice be your guiding star. Speak out against the injustices that plague the land. Act with kindness, and nurture the bonds that keep you rooted in shared humanity. The ripples of each small act resonate far and wide. The crowd began to murmur, a growing momentum of determination taking flight. Barak stepped forward, his voice steady yet soft. And if troubles come, if we are met with resistance, will our courage be enough to withstand the trials? Amos nodded, a bittersweet understanding dancing in his eyes. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means forging ahead despite it. When you feel the weight of doubt pressing against your hearts, remember the purpose you stand for, the love that ties you together. Let your actions be a testament to the legacy you wish to leave behind. A fierce spark ignited in Miriam's eyes. Then we must embrace our collective duty to protect and uplift one another. We shall weave a tapestry of love strong enough to withstand the flood. With renewed conviction, the crowd began to rally, voices merging into a harmonious chorus, each heart reinvigorated by the flame of hope that Amos had ignited. Let us be the hands that nurture. Let us stand firm together against the darkness. They cried, each word a declaration of their united intent. Faith flourishes in the face of chaos, Amos implored, feeling the tide of change sweep through them. Every moment you choose love over fear, you reshape the very fabric of your narrative. The future came before you, overwhelmed by uncertainty. Yet know this: when the floodwaters rise, with your hearts bound in light, you shall move as one. As the assembly stood together, emboldened by their shared vision, a presence enveloped the gathering, an unshakable unity forged by the trials they had faced. In that moment, something within each soul shifted. Clarity emerged through the murky uncertainty, lit a fire that illuminated their path ahead. Then, rising above the chatter, the voice of an elder, once cloaked in skepticism, rang clear. Let us not shy away from the reality of our struggles. Let us confront them with unwavering resolve, offering our hands to lift those who stumble as we carry forth our mission. Amos smiled warmly, recognizing the transformation unfolding before him. Together, you embody the spirit of resilience and courage and unyielding force amid distress. Your legacy will echo in the hearts of those who follow, not because of the trials endured, but because of the love that bridged your divisions. In unity, there lies the divine promise of rebirth. The rising sun cast its warm embrace over the assembly, igniting the landscape around them with a vibrant glow. They stood hand in hand, a collective heartbeat resonating in anticipation of the uncertain road that lay ahead. In that moment, they understood their faith, their love, and their unwavering commitment were the true foundations upon which they could rebuild as the day stretched before them. The shadow of despair began to dissipate, dissolving like mist in the light of the dawn. They had learned that prophecy was not merely a foretelling of fate, but a call to action, a reminder that, even in the folds of darkness, seeds of hope could sprout anew in the heart of the assembly. Amos planted a vision, a tapestry of each soul woven together, strong and yet fragile, capable of weathering the storms yet to come. With every decision made and every voice raised in compassion, they would rise, and in doing so, they would illuminate the shadows, creating a legacy that echoed throughout generations. Those who walked alongside him became carriers of light in their community, acknowledging that every flicker of doubt could be transformed into a beacon of hope. The flood may come, but with each shared act of kindness, they could withstand the fury of storms and emerge into the brilliance of a new dawn, a luminous testament of faith. And thus, as the sun climbed ever higher in the sky, they embraced the journey ahead, ready to meet both the flood and the rod of prophecy with hearts entwined in love, standing firm in the knowledge that they were not just survivors, but the architects of a hopeful future glistening just beyond the horizon.